Okay, so we are now on step 6, and step 6 we're going to need everything that we've built in the previous steps, plus we're going to need this rear arm. So this is the assembly that we've just built in step 5. Drive arms out, and we need some more screws. So we need some BA3s. That's these guys here, the 3x8mm machine screws. We need 2 of those. We need 2 of the BA5s, which are these guys, 3x12mm self-tapping screws. And we need the 3x10mm self-tapping screws, but these are the countersunk head ones. So you can see there's slightly different head on them. Okay, and we're going to need to pop this onto our rear chassis. And little note here, it talks about loosening some of these screws that we put in. So these ones predominantly at the back, these two, so that this can move back a bit. This is that that little arm thing we put in, so we need to move that back a bit. There we go, like that, because that needs to now marry up against here. So let's do this. Let's pop this in. So we need to line these up in here and here, and this needs to come into here, into this recess. And I don't know if the camera can pick that up. It's a recess. Okay, so you kind of pop that into there like that, flip it over, and you're making sure that that sits in like that, and then that squeezes tight, and then we can tighten these two up a little bit more once we've then got this in. So it kind of, it's almost like it clamps onto the chassis. Yeah, almost like it grabs it, so you're grabbing something. So we're also going to need some of these little parts here. These are the D10s. I've got a couple of those that we're going to add. They're going to go on top of here. Okay, right, so first of all, let's go from the bottom. We use the little countersunk ones because, as you can see, there's a recess there. So you countersink those in. It's nice and tight. Yeah. And now we've got it from the top. We need to, here and here, we need to pop the self-tapping ones, and we need to screw those home. So there we go. Tight and a quarter turn, tight and a quarter turn. That's all you need. And then we need to do the top part. So we need to take one of our D10 parts. Easier said than done with my fat fingers. There we are. And these go, there's like a rounded section and a more flatted section. Okay, so the flatted section is more like that, and it goes across, because there's the camera can pick it out, there's a little area there, look, it goes across like that. like that. There we go. Step 6 completed. Okay, so we're now on step 7, and step 7 is all about the motor. And we have our pinion gear, which is a 20-tooth pinion gear, which comes as standard in the kit. But you can, as you can see, you can change the pinion gear to give you different ratios, and you could also change to have a better motor as well if you want it in the future. So we're going to build this one stock. The Volkswagen Beetle in its day wasn't a particularly fast car. It was more to do with getting the people, the masses, into a car comfortably to be able to go and have transportation. That was the original idea, you see. Let's pop the components. So as you can see, the components I have is our chassis that we've built up, our motor, which is here, standard Silvercan 540 motor. We've got the spacer. This is used to make the pinion gear at the right point on our motor shaft. We've got the motor plate, we've got the little Allen key that comes with the kit, and you can just see in there, look, you've got that little grub screw which is going to go inside our 20-tooth motor pinion gear. Okay, and I'm going to pop a little bit of thread lock on here because I like to just lock it into place. So yeah, show you how that's done. So first step, take our motor, and we're going to pop this card so that it lines up, the holes here line up with the screw holes in the motor. So that's quite an easy step, just pop that into place. There we go. Okay, once we've got that done, we're going to pop our little grub screw, and if I can get this on camera I'll try, but it's quite a small grub screw. There we go. I'm going to pop that onto the end of the Allen key so I know where it is. There you go. So that's on the end of the Allen key, and for me, like I say, I like to just put a little drop of the thread lock on there just to help it. And then what I do is I wind this in to the pinion gear already, and I just wind that in so you can just see the grub screw peeping out the hole at the bottom. And then you got to line that. There's a flat area on the motor pinion. You can, on the camera will pick it out. There's a flat area, and we're going to line that over to the flat area. And then once we've got that lined onto the flat area, just nip this grub screw up so you know you're on the flat. Just nip it up so you know you're there. Okay, so you know you're on the flat area. Now you take your spacer system and you pop that into place, and then just back that off just ever so slightly so you can spin back out, and you literally push the motor spacer onto the motor, push out the pinion, and then tighten the grub screw back up. Once you've got that in there, you know it's in space, you can take that off. Okay, and it tells you to firmly wrench this on, so we're just going to firmly do that. There we go. You don't have to go too mad because this is alloy, which is why I like to put a little bit of lock thread in there. Okay, so now that's in there and spaced on there, so you can see, the camera will pick that out. You can see where it is there. Okay, all right, so that's step 7 completed. Okay, so we're on step 8 now, and step 8, we need our motor. We need 2 of the motor screws, which are the 3x25mm machine head screws. We need 2 of those. We need 2 of the BA1s, which are the 3x10mm machine head screws. And we need a couple of the parts A7, so they're off the parts tree A. And we also need our chassis, of course. So 2 steps. First of all, pop these A7 parts into position, and second, pop the motor in, and we need to make sure we line this up correctly. So if you look carefully on here on the drawing, It's talking about the holes. Now, I don't know if the camera's going to pick this out in the light, but there is a 16 written on here on the case. So that responds to the 16 here. And we want the 20, in fact, because we want this hole, which is here and here, which is where the motors go in. So that will give us the perfect alignment for our 20-tooth pinion gear that we have on our motor. All right, so let's do that in 2 stages. So put one of them on already, one of the A7 parts. I'll just put this one on for you so you can see. So that this lines up like that. And then you take this is the 3x10mm one. Take that screw, and so what I'm going to do is pop that in, line that up, and then screw that into place. And there we are. And you keep screwing this into place until you get it nice and tight and it's all the way through. Tight, there you go. So that's the 2 A pieces into place. And you're ready. And now we need to put the motor in. So motor's going to go inside here, and we're going to line up with these outer holes that we need. Okay, so I'm just going to pop the motor in and the 2 holes, line them up so they're in place. And it doesn't say to use thread lock again, but you know, again, the amount of vibrations we're going to have here. So I'm just going to pop a little bit of thread lock on my screws and screw them home. So all I've done is I've kind of put the motor in, lining up the holes so I know, then quickly go through here, and then hopefully we've got to collect that motor, and hopefully we can collect that hole. Stroke of luck I have. And we do the same again on the other one. Yeah, I'm lucky enough to grab both of those. So we're on, as per the drawing, here and here. So that's for the 20-tooth pinion. Once they're in place, just give them a nip up so they're nipped up. Okay, one there and one there. There you go, nipped up. So it's not going nowhere, and then once the thread lock's secured, it just locks into place. So that's step 8 completed. That's the motor in. Okay, so we're now on step 9. So step 9, you have to be careful again. You're building with the Beetle, we're building it on the long chassis, so M-06L. There are different versions, M-06M and M-06S for short and medium. So as is the long. So we need some more component parts as well. So we need this part, which is an E8. We need these parts, which are E5 and E4. We need a chassis, and we need to remove this piece here in the middle. And we're going to need some screws. So we need 4 of the BA4s, which are 3x15mm self-tapping screws. 2 of the BA5s, which are the 3x12mm self-tapping screws. And 3 of your BA6s, which are your 3x10mm self-tapping screws. So yeah, we just need to remove this piece here. We don't need this piece because you can see in the drawing it says remove. So we're going to snip that out. So back in a moment, I'll just cut this piece out. So it's out, and then tidy up where the flashings are. So all I've done with this here is, the camera can pick it out. Let's put a bit more light on the subject perhaps, see if that helps. Is I've tidied up the flashings with a knife here. And I've just generally just gone and out. So make sure you use the knife pointing outwards, not towards yourself. And I've just trimmed those flashings off so that they're flush and not sticking out at us. We don't want those sticking out. Okay, so there we are, they're nice and flush. So the next part of step 9 is, as we're using the L setting, we need to align these parts. These are the E4 and E5 parts that we have. So if you look at the diagram, it wants you to put onto the last 2 So they're going to technically be screwed down on there, and we're using the 3x10 self-tapping screws. And the idea is once that bit's on there, if I can just hold that with my fingers, we take this other part, which is the E4 part. We need to pop this, because remember we're doing the long, so it's the E4 part. We need to pop this, and that needs to go like that on the chassis, because what's going to happen is when we take the gearbox that we made, that's going to go across like that and give you a long chassis. So can you see how that all comes together? It's really neat, isn't it? Okay, so anyway, first things first, let's pop the first bit on, the E4s and E5 pieces, and we're also going to make sure that this part here, it says attach BC11 on step 29, so more towards the end of the build. So just bear that in mind. We may need to refer back to that. Okay, right, a little bit of screwing of these in place on here, and here, leaving that BC11 to go into this position. So here we go. So I've popped the E4 part already on, and it's just a case of making sure that these screw down. And yeah, it's a case of using the 3x10mm ones, which are the smaller of the screws that we've brought out of the packet. Tight and a quarter. So there we have the E4 and E5 parts on there. Okay, and then we want to take, sorry, this was not an E4, this was an E8. So we want to turn this over, and we want to pop this on now on here, and we're putting the screws like that, screw holes into this middle one here. Okay, so we're going to use the 3x15mm screws, which are these longer ones. So put one of those in there, put one of those in there, tighten a quarter turn, not going nowhere, just go double check. Yep, nipped. So now we've got that bit, and now we've got that bit, we can introduce our rear section, and that's going to reintroduce like that, which is damn amazing. Okay, and of course we've got to go up from the bottom with the last 4 remaining 3x15mm self-tapping screws. So we need to pop the 3x15mm ones in, these front ones here and here, and the 3x12mm ones are at the back, these back ones here. Make sure you get the screws in the right place. And that's now step 9 completed. Looking good. Okay, so we are ready now for step 10. And step 10, we need to have our chassis ready, which we have here. We also have to have this E11 part, which is a mounting point for the shocks, no doubt. We're going to need some parts from our part bag B now. So we need the BA5s, we need 4 of those. They're 3x12mm self-tapping screws. We need 2 of these BB6. These are the ball connectors, they're 5mm. We need BB11, there are 2 of those. They are the 3x23mm, and they're a threaded shaft. We need the 5mm adjusters, we need 4 of those. They're BB15s, which are on the parts in the balance bag. We need a couple of these O-rings, the 3mm O-rings, so 2 of those. And 2 of the gearbox joints, these are going to the gearbox. 2 of those, they're BB18s. And we need to put that together and assemble that effectively into the back end of our car here. Okay, so show you how it's done. So working on the first step of number 10, we need to make these, basically they're the steering rod ends. So I've made one here already, and we just need to make these according to the drawing. So with one of the adjuster cups up and one with adjuster cups down, and we need an 8mm in there, so you can offer it up to the drawing, do it that way. So I'm going to measure that on mine in a moment. I'm just going to make this other one, and I'm not going to lie, folks, these are a real they're a real faff. You got to get this started nice and straight as you possibly can. Okay, you get that one started, and then it winds on as much as you could possibly wind it on with your fingers. So you need to do the same again on the other side. And once you've got it wound on, you've then got to wind these in as far as they will go and adjust them so that they're even, and you've got this 8mm space in between. So I'm not going to bore you with that. As I do that, I do use these tools here. So this is a pair of there's not serrated, just normal flat pliers, just to put a little bit more protection on. I've got a bit of heat shrink tubing here that I've just put over the actual pliers, so that I can hold that center part like that. And I also use this Racing turnbuckle tool. You can literally put it down to the flat area here and use this as a lever to spin it on. So it's a case of being patient and wind ththese in until you get the 8mm with one cup up and one cup down. Come back to you in a moment. So I've done these now, so they're both of them done, and to be honest with you, I've got an 8.07, 8.06 gap in there. You're not going to get it any nearer than that. And I've had about the same 8.07 in there as well. Look. So yeah, like I say, they're the right size. You're never going to get it exactly like that. So yeah, there you go. So one cup up, one cup down, and the gaps are about the right same. So that's the two of those. That's those completed. We'll now move on to the next bit. So studying the drawing again, we'll turn our attention to this upright mounting, and we need to pop these ball end connectors. And if you look at it carefully, so you position it so it's like that on the drawing, so you're matching it up so with the drawing, it's okay. These are actually referring, and you've got to look at this drawing quite carefully actually, it's actually referring to these bottom holes here. So we're going to screw these into these bottom holes, okay? A little bit of a check that drawing. So put this first one on and nip that up, and the second one now, there you go, and nip that up as well. Don't go too mad because there's plenty of thread going into there, you just need to nip it up so it's tight. Okay, so that's that mounting position on there with those ball connectors on the end. We now need to start putting things onto the chassis. A couple of other things we need to do. We need to pop our little O-rings inside our drive cups, go into the gearbox joints. It says use one of the little dog bones just to push that home. Make sure it's straight, which it is. So we need to put one in there. Put one in there. And get it in half straight. We've got a chance of pushing it all the way home. There we go. We are. It's all the way home. And then what we need to do is our steering rods or upper arms we made. We need to pop those onto the ball joints on here ready. Like that. Nice sound, isn't it? Pop. Not quite on that one. Just trying to show you on camera. There we go, like that. There we are. And now we need to introduce these to the chassis on here, like that. And we need to screw them into place using our 3x12mm self-tapping screws. So Not going to bore you with all the screwing bits and pieces. I'm just going to show you how that's done, and then we'll put these little gearbox joints in afterwards. I'll just finish off screwing these in. So all I've done is put these in. There we are, that's tight. That's tight. Tight. And tight. Not going nowhere. Okay, so that's that mounting piece on with those 4 screws into the top. Very simple step. And then all we've got to do is pop these inside the gearbox joint, so they just go in like that. And if you're using the plastic spacers, then you'll need to put some grease on there, but if you're not, you're using bearings like I've used, then you won't need to. So that goes in there. That's now ready. That's now step 10 completed. Right, we should move on.